Okay, so I'm Dave Lowe, and that was Holly Jazz Lowe, and you are listening to the Scene World podcast.
It's the Scene World podcast. We're us from Scene World. This is the new episode. In a little bit, we're going to be talking with Paolo Besser, and Massimo Canigiani. Those are my New Jersey pronunciations. I'm sure that I've butchered them completely, but they are common. They are the
two of Commodore.
They are
Massimo,
they are
the CEO, and
right. Massimo is the CEO of Commodore, and Paolo is a
team leader.
Yes, he's a team leader. So we'll be speaking with them. There are some Italian spots. Massimo wasn't overly confident in his English ability, so he spoke in Italian in this, and we've kept that in because, well, in the interests of disclosure, and because neither Joerg nor I speak Italian, so if any of this was translated incorrectly, we're relying on you, our listeners, to point out that we're idiots. So,
not our fault if it was translated.
Exactly. Yeah, we just listened. So, yeah. So we're going to be talking to them in a little bit, and it's an interesting interview. They're doing some interesting things with Commodore in that they're not. Well, I don't want to spoil too much of the interview, but essentially they're not really focusing on being old Commodore, and they want to do something new with Commodore, and that's okay.
They want to be what Commodore would be nowadays if it was still the old company.
Right. So, and we're getting demo units of these phones, these Commodore phones, yes?
Yes, they offered it to us, and I sent them our mail addresses. And so, when it will be released in a week, that is what they said, then we should get a review unit for both of us, and then we will have a look at it.
Yeah.
Actually, we have a lot to review, because in one of the last podcasts, our Gamescom special, we had an interview with EA Sports about FIFA Soccer, and we actually tried to get Konami for an interview too, and they sent us a review unit. So maybe for the next pre-chat of the next podcast, we will actually play together and record it, because
we got a preview of what?
Pro Evolution Soccer.
Okay, so we have a review code for Pro Evolution Soccer pre-release. Yeah. That I don't understand why we're getting these things. Why people are so keen on giving us stuff. But hey, cool. We'll check it out, and yeah.
Because we are the press, as you said in our Gamescom special.
Yeah.
And we are obviously big enough to deserve that.
Mm-hmm. I guess so.
I mean, look at, for example, our last Scene World Disc Magazine issue. It was a new record, 4 disc sides. Oh my God! It was so big we actually had to split it in 2 issues.
And this is
25.1
This was released a couple days ago, as of now.
Last Friday, actually.
Right.
And it was our biggest issue ever. It was staffed, and we got a lot of positive feedback, which is something I want to talk about, because when we started the podcast, AJ and I, we heard a lot of complaints like, now you stop doing the disc mag. Because that is what all the other guys are doing. They have a project and they add the podcast on the top of all the stuff they are doing, and then they concentrate just on the podcast and nothing else. No, that's not actually what we want to do. We don't want to put priority away from something that we are already doing. So as a part of that, AJ had the idea, and I actually like that idea a lot, that we next year start interviewing one of the key founding members, and some of the key founding members actually, the old time fans and staff members, and talk about how it was for them to start Scene World, which we started as a project on the November 1st of the year 2000. So, what would you expect from that, AJ? I mean, it was your idea. So.
Yeah. No, I definitely. I wanted to do a one of the ideas that we had when we started this was that I wanted to sort of focus on the scene a little bit, with kind of looking back with people that and include more members of the staff in the podcast rather than just me and Joerg, because whilst we are fascinating and interesting to listen to, there's way more people that do stuff with this than just the two of us. So
just for example, Andrew, who has like over 3,000 games at home and
right.
actually works for Retro Gamer as an editor and journalist, and he is an expert in video games, and he knows like almost any game you can imagine, you know?
Right, and or people, you know, like our music is the music for the podcast is composed by Richard Bayless, who is a prolific game developer and musician and all sorts of other stuff. So I mean, these are people that do stuff with us, that work with us on the magazine, that really they don't get the recognition and the attention that they really should for the contributions that they make.
Because I always say it's a team project, and it's only possible because of every single one of us, you know. Or for example, Silvio with his group Hokuto Force, who actually focuses on bug hunting old retro games and releasing them without bugs.
And despite this being a group effort, you have individually been honored by the by Twin Galaxies.
Not by Twin Galaxies. No, Walter Day.
Walter Day.
Walter Day is really very, very much trying to make sure that it is not Twin Galaxies, but him. It's his trading cards. It was previously owned by Twin Galaxies, but since he gave Twin Galaxies away to Chase Hall, they wanted to make sure that this is separated. So it's now Walter Day's trading card collection of superstars in the field of technology, development, video games, and so on, and also science fiction people.
So how does it feel to be a trading card?
I like it that the Scene World project got honored. As I said, I see it as a team effort, not about my effort. I just got the idea when I was a teenager, and I found people like you and many others that will say, yes, we like the idea and we want to take on with that. And so I think it's very cool that he honored that, and being in this collection really means a thing. As I said, they really have a value.
Right.
It is his hobby, but they actually mean something. That means that the card that I'm on in could really get of value in some years for some reason. Especially when I die, but hopefully not too soon. Yeah. But now the question is actually how do you feel? I mean, you have been at the video game con last weekend, and how does it feel? Because we mentioned it every single podcast.
Yeah. So yeah, a video game con has come and gone, and I went to it. I dragged my brother along with me. It was an interesting experience, and
which is quite nice because they announced you coming on their Twitter.
Yeah, they did.
And afterwards, when we announced that you are coming back, we actually got some retweets from from the Twitter. So I think it was quite successful. And you told me you had a very nice experience meeting.
It was an interesting experience. I don't do cons. I've never gone to a con before.
I remember you always complained that there's nothing in your close distance.
Right, yeah.
So then I accidentally was talking to Richie Knuckles on via Skype, doing the interview, and then he was saying like, "Hey, watch my Twitch channel." So I did a few days after, and then it was like, "Hey, there's a video game con at the place where AJ's grandmother is living." So, and then actually AJ kickstarted that thing,
and we went to it, and it was really convenient in that it was, I mean, this joint was 15 minutes from my grandma's house, so it was like I grabbed my brother, we drove there, we spent a couple hours, we came back home, we got some food, and then we went back there again at night for the rest of the event, and it was an interesting event. I understand now in seeing that, because I've never gone to a con before. I've never done this sort of thing where conventions are not really my thing. I don't like being the guy that's walking around being the representative for something. It's just it's a strange sort of thing. But having been there, I get a lot of what Charles Martinet was saying to us about how it brings people together in certain ways. Like we're standing there and 5 people come from different areas and they're all dressed as Link. And they all immediately see each other and they go over and they're hugging and saying hi and hanging out the rest of the con and whatnot. And they've never met before today. And this is a sort of thing where people feel comfortable at these conventions. And in this particular instance, I was the one that kind of felt sort of out of the loop a little bit.
You can fix that next time you go walk by as a diskette.
Yeah, well, but I mean, it was a fun experience. It was interesting. It was we got videos, and I give a lot of credit to these YouTube guys, because throughout the thing there were people, you could tell that they were YouTube celebrities, I guess they are, because they'd go running past you and then someone would be following them with a camera on their shoulder, like professional grade camera, and you would know that that they'd run over to the arcade cabinet and be saying something and this person's filming them, and that this is a YouTube guy and he's making a thing. And I give credit to that because I've been back, this happened about a week ago, and I haven't edited my footage yet. I've looked at it, but I have to still, some of these guys put this stuff up the next day or even that same night. And I don't know how they did it, because I'm looking at this and it's like, wow, I've got so much video to edit and go through, and I don't know what to do with it.
Oh, I can tell you, there's actually in the new Magic's Movie Edit Pro, there's a functionality audio editing.
Oh no, I know what to do with it.
Throw in everything and then they put it together automatically.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know what to do with it, but it's a lot of work to put the stuff together and flop it out and everything. And these I give these guys some credit for doing that, because it's going to be at least another week until we've got our version of our retrospective look at it.
But we planned it this way, so it's fine.
Yeah, we did.
Anyway, so back to the thing, So what I wanted to say is cosplaying, it's like in those links guy, is actually what got them linked together.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
This is how links got linked together.
Yes.
Ooh, what a cheap joke. And anyway,
I'll
the
give you a golf clap for that.
Yeah. And well,
and there was one Commodore. There was one Commodore 64 at a video game con. It was for sale with a 1541 disk drive, and somebody bought it. And we found the guy that bought it, and we gave him a Scene World card.
Nice.
So if he's listening to this, congrats on your purchase.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you know, I realized afterwards that he bought a C64 and a 1541 with no cables, no power supply. So I don't know how he's going to turn it on or anything, but
Wet fingers.
yeah, but you know, but whatever. It is what it is.
So we have a lot of things coming up, as I said.
Yes.
Talking through 3D realms.
What date is that? What's the date of the 3D realms? We are doing another night at the museum. It's not going to be a podcast because that's sort of difficult.
Was a one-time thing.
Yeah, that was just a one-off thing. But this is going to be. I'm going to just sort of be sitting in on and taking part in this.
Yeah. In 1 week exactly, the 30th.
Right, 30th of September.
Yeah.
What time?
Well, it starts at 7, but we will be there at 6 already.
But what is so 7 your time?
Yeah, 7 p.m.
Yeah, so that's 1 p.m. Eastern time for us Americans.
And we'll be talking to Frederick Schreiber. And
who
Niels...
we've talking to before? Who we've talking to? What the hell is that? Who we've spoken to before on the podcast, and we'll be covering things like what's that game?
Bombshell.
Bombshell.
The new IP. Yeah,
which we got to
guy.
see. We got to see a couple of little pictures and stuff of Bombshell before that we couldn't show anybody because it was, you know, sort of pre-release, and so it'll be kind of cool to see how much of that actually made it through to the finished product.
So we will be talking to Frederick Schreiber and a few other people, but the details are still to be discussed.
Right.
But we will talk a bit about the history of 3D realms too.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yes, and also news that John Draper, our Captain Crunch that we had a while ago, is actually at the moment in Berlin.
Oh.
Coming up, yeah.
Doing what? Demanding what sorts of things?
On October the 3rd, and he will be at the Vintage Computer Festival.
Okay.
And it's quite interesting because we actually have a report of the Vintage Computer Festival in Europe that is in Munich. So if you want to know what a Vintage Computer Festival is like, you can actually read the report about the Munich one in our issue that we have right now.
All right, then.
Yeah. And this one is in Berlin, so they have a couple of them in Germany.
Okay.
Actually, there are also some bad news or sad news. Actually, as you pledged it to, Cinemaware announced they are having problems finding an investor for Rocket Ranger. You probably saw it too because you received the same email.
Yeah, they sent an email out letting people know that that they haven't stopped working, but they and they haven't used most of the money.
They didn't use any money.
That was collected by the Kickstarter, but right. But they have to pay taxes and stuff like that for the end of the year, and essentially it was putting a poll out to ask people what they want, and whether they want their money back or whether they should just keep going with it and trying to do what they got to do. And
what did you vote for?
I voted to keep doing what they're doing, use the money to pay taxes if they need to.
Me too. Yeah.
And that seemed to be the general. I think it was almost 3-1 in favor of that. There was only a small
but in the
percentage
comments,
that was
of course,
back.
the most people are complaining about bad communication.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, the loudest people are going to be the ones that have a problem with something. So.
Well, I mean,
the people that are like, yeah, just do your thing, you know, they're the ones that aren't going to comment. But the people that want their money back are the ones that are going to be complaining the loudest.
So do you think that they will go on, or do you think that...
I hope they do. It seemed like a good project. I backed it, as did you. And, you know, making a game is not an easy thing. It's people don't take into consideration the amount of hours and time it takes to make a good video game. And the amount that they asked for really was kind of paltry when you look at how much it normally would cost to make a game.
Which is quite interesting because we discussed that very, very clearly and very deeply with Norbert in the last podcast about Equinox, Deep Descent. So
yeah, right, and so it's not surprising that they would run into some problems down the road, and I give them credit for coming out and saying exactly how it is, and
a lot of people actually directly to me actually replied like, I'm afraid they could go bankrupt without finishing the game.
Yeah, and that's a possibility, but it's a possibility that we knew from the beginning. This isn't something that is a surprise. We're hoping for the best. They are trying to do something decent and good, but
the thing
shit
is,
happens, and that's really, people need to remember that it's a difficult business to be in, especially now for smaller developers, and this is something that we knew about that they knew about when they went into it, and it's just the way that the business works, and sometimes things get made and sometimes they don't, and sometimes companies go bankrupt and sometimes they pull through, and we'll just need to see how this works. And maybe they can make it work and maybe they can't, but the main thing is that I think that they tried. And
the thing is, if you are thinking that way, that you are going to bankrupt, then nobody would put any money in anything, because Kickstarter is not a shop where you buy something. Kickstarter is where you help kickstarting a project. Hence its name.
Right. And there are
it's not called kick shopping or something.
Right, and there are risks inherent in doing that. You're investing in a project. You're not buying the project, you're investing in it. And you need to that's really that's people need to look at it at Kickstarter as an investment platform rather than as a store. Just because you put money towards something, just because you back a project doesn't mean you're going to get it. Most of the time you hope that you do, but there are risks inherent in doing that, and you just need to take it as it comes and hope for the best, and and I'm sure they'll be doing what they can to make sure that this comes out well.
Yeah.
So I think we've babbled enough. We've got the guys from Commodore sitting here waiting in the past again. So let's pop on over to there and talk to them.
Hi.
Hello.
So, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Hi, Joerg.
So, great to have you all here. Wonderful.
Indeed.
So, Massimo, thanks for taking the time
too. Please. Just a moment, sorry.
Okay, sure.
Paolo, tu fammi da traduttore perché non voglio far figuraccia con...
Ok, Massimo, tranquillo.
I didn't understand a word.
Oh, he was just asking me to translate. Nothing. You should consider as well.
Ah, okay.
Se volete Paolo russo, ma...
He can speak Russian, but not English.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we will go by whatever is possible. So, you, Paolo, you said you are a team leader at Commodore?
Well, that appears to be the truth.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because, Commodore brand was in many hands in the past. And I wonder if you could tell us a bit how you actually decided to recreate Commodore to let it reborn,
We basically noticed that the Commodore brand was actually usable in the smartphone market because the old Commodore didn't use its brand in this market sector. And we are all very fond of the old Commodore we all had a Commodore or more Commodore computer in the past. As you can see behind me, I have some Commodore gadgets as well. And so we decided, why not? If we can, why shouldn't we try to make this a great brand name live again in a new sector where the technology actually is today?
All right. I guess the main problem here is, I guess you followed the press, is that a lot of people worried that it would just be a copy of a Chinese brand, just saying Commodore PET on it, you know. And I saw that on YouTube, you actually commented that this is not the case, that the phone is a lot different, and it starts from having a specialized OS on it that is customized for Commodore needs.
Well, yes. Obviously, the phone is made in China. It's actually built in China, and we also asked to our Chinese partners to give us a hand in the engineerization of and the project of the phone. And so we also tried some Italian design styles. We tried to make some mock-ups of the actual phone, and we also noticed that it was not the case to use that because it was not cozy. So we decided that okay, they have the know-how, they have all the things that are needed to start with, and so we went for the ready design and a ready-made phone we have customized in many manners. For instance, many people says, "Oh, it's like the old Kubo phone." That's not really true because the Wofone, as we know, is only Chinese telephone. So you can't actually understand what's written there if you don't know Chinese. It uses Chinese transmission bands, so you can't actually use it outside of China because you wouldn't attach to your carrier or to your internet provider. But it's also plenty of Chinese-only applications which are used to get money. Actually, but our phone is instead a true Android lollipop experience. So it is a better phone in many ways, and it is obviously localized in many languages. So you can actually use it everywhere. Obviously, your bands must be compatible because if not, it wouldn't work as well. We have set it for the European market, but it's actually usable also in many international countries. We have also added emulators if this was part of your question.
Oh yes, like emulators for C64 and Amiga games.
Yeah, exactly.
So you target as the main audience those retro lovers that had a Commodore and Amiga machine themselves?
We would really appreciate if they appreciate our phone as well. But I guess that we shouldn't stop with all the Commodore fans because you're actually selling the phone to the current people, to current boys and girls who haven't had a Commodore computer in the past because they weren't even born or they were just too young to appreciate them. So we have in reality two great challenges to make. The first is trying to sell the phone also to all the Commodore fans as we are too. The other is actually selling the phone to people who never saw a Commodore computer in their whole life.
So you're essentially not not necessarily trying to basically, because a lot of people, there's been a lot of products over the past few years that, there was the Webbit, and there was just recently there was another machine that looked like a C64, but it had nothing to do with the 64.
That's not not our business.
Right. So you're
not our business.
So you're not trying to be old Commodore. You're trying to make something new with the Commodore trademark.
That's exact. We don't live in the past. This is something we should make it clear. We don't want to relive on old computers. We would like Commodore to be a current brand, a brand that will live in the future.
Interesting. Yeah, because actually, yeah, I guess you were expecting that kind of feedback from the Commodore community in the first place, because that is, as Jay said, what a lot of even press said, like, oh, it's just another cash cow on the Commodore brand for the old Commodore lovers. And
the pet is a smartphone for old Commodore lovers, but also for everyone else. It's not a product we target exclusively on old Commodore fans. We are Commodore fans, but we are here to make new products, not to make old ones.
That's interesting because, as AJ mentioned, there was the other Commodore company, Commodore USA, by Barry Altman, who actually unfortunately died of cancer, and he made this case that looked like a Commodore C64 Pratt bin case, but it wasn't.
It is a wonderful bourbon.
But a bit expensive.
I would really like to have one. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford one because I could not buy one. But well, that was a great product.
And it was very, very expensive.
Very nice.
Yeah. And the key was actually shortly before he died, he said he wanted to make new Amiga models. He wanted to release new Amiga computers, and I guess that's not in your plans, right?
No, because we have basically many issues with the Amiga computer platform. First of all, the Amiga was split from Commodore at the time of gateway acquisition, so we don't actually have the rights to make a Commodore Amiga computer. Because those rights have been sold to anyone else. So if you want a current Amiga platform, you can go for an Amiga One system from Trevor Dickinson, from Aeon, from those companies. But actually, we produce smartphones and smartphones only. So we simply won't make a new Amiga.
Okay.
I'm sorry for that.
Well, that's okay. That's another question, which is that the name Commodore and the trademark is kind of there's some ambiguity as to who owns the rights to the name and the licensing and all that, because whoever had it last, I guess, went bankrupt, and the rights went to their creditors, who, it's really kind of, it's a really muddled sort of. Because so many people.
So let my CEO explain this part, and I will translate it.
Okay.
Thank you very much. È molto semplice. Il marchio ce l'abbiamo noi, è regolarmente registrato. Se vuoi traslare man mano tutta la frase.
We have actually registered the trademark, so the trademark is ours.
Okay.
La Commodore Holding BV non ha mai operato nel settore degli smartphone, tantomeno non rispetta quello che la Convenzione di Parigi, l'articolo 6 bis della Convenzione di Parigi, che è l'unico articolo a cui loro si possono aggrappare. Non è una società che è trasparente, non è una società che opera, ed è una società che si occupa di speculazioni finanziarie, e non posso entrare nel merito di altro. È una società che nulla ha mai prodotto. avevano solo 10 dipendenti, tra cui Taco Van Sambeck, che fu l'ultimo a essere presente all'interno di Commodore Gaming. È l'unica persona che ha parlato con Barry Altman e fu messo alla porta. Una società di cui c'è molta ombra.
Okay, basically he
È
told
una
that
società fallita, è una società che al Nasdaq, allo small Nasdaq, non esiste. Non esiste da nessuna parte questa società.
okay, he told that Commodore Holding BV is basically a failed company who never worked in the smartphone sector of the market. And it hasn't even the specification to relieve in the Paris Convention Article 6, which is the only one which can be somehow helping them. But it's clear that the market is our own. No. Commodore Holdings BV never produced any actual product. They just made business with the Commodore brand name, but obviously that's something that goes away from our field. Dimmi, Massimo.
Che il loro è un tentativo di opposizione che non ha alcun senso e dal punto di vista figurativo, se vuoi traslare già.
Okay, he is talking that their opposition to our trademark registration is not possible in reality because they can't absolutely have anything to do with our registration because we operate in different market sectors.
Apre una Konihoff, una contrattazione dove noi non intendiamo al momento trattare con persone che ad oggi non hanno prodotto nulla per chi ama Commodore e per tutte le persone che hanno seguito per tanti anni questo marchio fino alla sua morte completa. Noi non siamo la Commodore Business Machine di Jack Tramiel, siamo una filosofia diversa, cioè mantenendo lo stesso amore, ecco.
They are currently trying to make some deal with us, but we aren't really fond of that because we don't want at the moment make deals with people that never brought anything to the market, anything that was of any value for the old Commodore fans all over the world.
So they're trying to take legal action against you or to team up with you.
I guess the second.
Okay.
Vorrei concludere una cosa, Paolo, se mi è concesso,
Sì, dimmi.
che sul loro sito di Commodore Corp, simpaticamente, io metterei così, continuano a mettere una causa tra Aserim e Commodore Corp. E la cosa che più mi spiace è che hanno puntato il dito sul nostro operato e non sono mai andati a cercare chi realmente capitanava e l'una e l'altra, come Eugène Vanos, che si trovava da una Aserim, work for Commodore Holding.
Okay, in their website, which is also full of broken links, if you see, Commodore Holdings BV just wrote about that old legal cause with Azurim, but people just pointed to our operations when they never actually tried to understand who was really in charge for both Azurim and Commodore license BV at the time of the struggle. They would see that the same people actually work for both companies.
E poi come ultimissima cosa era il fatto che loro chiesero tramite persona interposta ovviamente una royalty che poteva variare dal 3 al 7%, ma a fronte di un nulla. Queste mi furono...
They have tried with a third person in the meanwhile to get royalties from 3 to 7% of our earnings.
E la ragazza che segue loro Colin Hoff è un giovane avvocato che ho notato grandissima inesperienza, a tal punto che la ragazza che segue poi l'opposizione, che quando mi sono interfacciato con l'OAMI, la ragazza della Niffen Partners, questa ditta, è un giovane avvocato, quindi simpaticamente ho anche fatto capire che non si va da nessuna parte. Ecco, cioè, questo.
They tried to contact us with their young lawyer, but we actually answered that for the moment we are not interested in dealing with them because they have actually nothing to offer to us.
Se avessero avuto un altro business plan, avessero avuto una storia che potesse essere limpida, forse si sarebbero evitati polemiche.
If they had a more clear path and a high history, if they had done something for the Commodore community, maybe we could take this in consideration. But since they just tried to capitalize on the brand name, we don't see why we should make that with them.
So actually, you are trying to not only capitalize but also give something good back to the community, back to the Commodore brand that you like so much yourself.
Exactly as I've said before, we are first trying to make actual products, and we want to sell actual products to the Commodore people and to everyone else. We want Commodore to be a big player again, not just a forgotten brand in the hands of someone that just doesn't know what to do with it.
So you're focusing on the cell phone market, which is a pretty big. It's a big market at the moment, and you have one phone out. You've got the Pet, is it? Yeah,
Pet, yeah.
Okay, and this runs on Android, and is this a modified version of Android, or is this just like, is there anything like specific to the OS that doesn't?
Yeah. The OS is Android 5 Lollipop, and we went for a stock implementation of it with some little changes here and there, because old Commodore was all about simplicity, was all about customization. User had the power to change whatever they wanted on the Commodore computer. And we decided to keep this philosophy also for the Pet.
Oh yes, in the video comment you actually answered that the phone comes rooted. So you can actually manipulate it like a normal computer and operate it like a normal computer. Because most Android phones...
The Pet is not pre-rooted. The Pet is simply a plain Android phone. So you can build everything you want over it. So you decide to change the launcher, you install your launcher. You decide to change the keyboard, you install your keyboard. But it will be a pity because we had chosen a really good one for the Commodore people. Because we tried many and we found that Outlet keyboard, which is really great. It has everything, numeric, alphanumeric, speech attractors, all in the same screen. So it's really, really cozy to use. And we decided, why don't we do a deal with those people? They are great, and we made it. And now we can bring this keyboard to our customers. We have also contacted the author of the port of Vice and UIA for Android, and we actually asked him to customize it to make it work better on our phone with the right settings to make the most of it on our phone. So the people will be able to use our phone in a very simple manner. And since Commodore was all about simplicity, all about freedom, we want to keep these philosophies because we really believe.
That's quite interesting because the WebIT, as
wow.
AJ mentioned, was highly slow, and the emulator could barely run a game because it was too slow and not really modified well. And you are just telling us you took a great care that it's working correctly on your phone, and you even cooperate with the authors.
I can assure you
the
that
emulator.
the Commodore PET is running buff emulator really fine, really speedy. So people will be able to enjoy their old emotions on the PET as well. But please be aware of the fact that the emulators are there just because many people are fond of them. But our smartphone is not all about the emulators. Our smartphone is a truly current, modern platform, which also allows to run old games. But it's just one of the many features this phone actually has.
Yes, I understood that, but I'm asking because, for the Amiga emulator, you actually have to pay royalties. You cannot just use it. That's
we actually,
not as easy.
No, because we aren't using the old Commodore Amiga Kickstart from Commodore.
Okay.
I am an Aeros developer I've been an Aeros developer for years. So obviously, when I had to solve this little problem, well, that was natural. We used the Aeros Kickstart replacement, which is completely free and open source. Nobody can claim to have the rights on the Aeros Kickstart. It would be a lie.
See, this is interesting for me because as we said earlier, every couple of years there's a new thing that pops out, and when this happened, I saw it on my Facebook feed and everywhere that there's a new Commodore with a new smartphone, and my first response was, "Oh, here we go again." Because every couple of years, that seems to be what happens.
I can't believe you.
But yeah, right, and that's every couple of years you get something that maybe looks like the old one that happens, and this doesn't seem to be focused on what Commodore did 30 years ago. This is something that the emulators are there because people like them, but that's not what you guys are focusing on. You guys are focusing on starting basically a new brand.
And smartphones are not made just for playing old games. The smartphones are made for looking the web, for keeping your documents, for accessing them from the internet, for giving you hints where you are with the satellites, and so on. This is the motivation why people buy a smartphone today, and definitely to call people and to hear them very well.
And to make Skype conversations.
Right.
Also, why not?
Yeah, but despite you're not focusing on that, it sounds to me like you took some efforts to make sure that the emulator will be working right, so nobody can claim you did it half-hearted just to cash on those people. As you said, you are actually working together with the authors of both emulators to make it right.
Please understand that Commodore Business Machines is aware of the fact that if there is some copyrights from someone, we don't have any issue in making deals or honoring them. That's absolutely something that I want to make it clear here. We have nothing to hide. We have nothing to fear of.
So that's
sounds like a pretty fair deal to me.
Yeah. It's surprising because I didn't I didn't expect to be kind of convinced so easily with it, but it's really kind of so you've got one phone that's out, right? That's out now. Has it been released yet, or is it still yet to be released?
It's been built and it will be available in a few weeks.
Okay.
Well, you can actually pre-order it already
on our site.
Yeah, you can actually pre-order it on your site.
Posso...
Esatto.
Non ho sentito bene.
Sì, dimmi pure. Ci
Non ho
chiedeva se il
sentito
nostro
bene.
telefono era pronto.
Riesco a capire, ma non voglio far brutta figura nel parlare.
Don't worry, Massimo. That's all fine.
Okay, and how does the phone compare to what is currently available on the market?
Okay, from a power point of view, we can make it very similar to the Samsung S5 for this kind of performance. This is 40,000 points at the entry to benchmark, and with MAT 7060, we have also really good performance in 3D games. So it's something that you can actually use with any program available today.
And what's in the pipeline for the future as far as?
That's obviously a secret.
Oh.
Yeah, but are you trying to focus on phones too, or are you actually considering looking into other?
From what I gathered, this was primarily almost exclusively a phone company. You're making smartphones.
We are a smartphone company, and for now we will make just smartphones and only smartphones. In the future, who would know?
See, we get stuck kind of on Commodore in that it offered this extra platform years and years ago that was different from everything else, because back then everything was different from everything else. And a lot of people don't really appreciate the fact that Commodore was in the business of making computers, and they had some that were DOS compatible. They had the Amiga. I mean, Commodore computers weren't compatible with themselves, and a lot of people look at this and they say, well, it's an Android phone, so it's bringing nothing unique to the Commodore brand. But if Commodore hadn't died,
if Commodore, unluckily, history is not made with if.
Right.
So we don't really know, we can't really know what the original Commodore from Jack Tramiel would be doing today if it was still alive. However, we tried to imagine that, and we thought about how the old Commodore worked. And they had the Commodore 64 Basic and PET from Microsoft. They had the Amiga OS from the Steel Group and other suppliers. They bought the Amiga technologies. They didn't develop by themselves that, because really Commodore didn't really make so much original things by itself. And I guess that using Android on our smartphone just continues this path. It's not something that is in contrast with the old Commodore. I guess it will be exactly what the Commodore will do today if they had to decide how we can make a smartphone and the right performance ratio. And believe in that, if we went for an original operating system, it would take years to develop. It would take many generations of phones and products for people to be testers of them, not users. And then, in the meanwhile, who would write the applications? Who would write the programs? People wanted to take the phone, go to the Play Store, buy their applications, download them for the free ones, and just play, just run, just do. They don't want to say, oh, I can't afford this because I don't have Android. Oh, I can't use this because I have this Commodore OS. No, that's not something we really wanted. It's not a plus having a completely original and new operating system today. I guess it is more a bottleneck.
That's true at this point, because you could put out a brand new OS and it would be like, like Palm Pilot or like Windows Phone. It just nobody uses them because the ecosystem is it's unfortunate, but it's a monoculture. It's Android or iOS. That's really.
I'm sorry. I want to speak about competition because.
Oh no, I'm not talking about competition.
I don't really think it's fair from our point of view.
Well, no, I'm not.
I prefer to concentrate on what the pet can actually do.
Right. No, I'm not comparing, or I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying that if you were to try to make your own OS for it, it wouldn't, the way that the environment is now, there's basically one thing or another thing. So it's like you have to make there really is no choice in making another operating system because it'll fail instantly, is what I'm saying, So that's really, it's a much better concept than I had originally anticipated coming into this. So switching off that for a second, what is with Commodore, because we are kind of old school Commodore people, and that's sort of what this is partially about. What are your personal histories with Commodore and with the machine, and what makes you appreciate it so much?
From my point of view, I know that Massimo had a Commodore 64 for some time with the drive and games and company, and he was really fond of that. I just started with a Commodore 16 in 1983 and 84. Sorry, I switched to 64 2 years later, and then I went for a Commodore Amiga in 1989. And then I obviously had to switch to the PC platform where I had to work.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never forgot that. I always missed the simplicity, the linearity, the speed of the Amiga platform. So I would have liked to replicate that on my PC, and I discovered the Eros project. Which was something it was really similar to my own thoughts. So I started the iCross desktop distribution, which became the most known and popular Eros distribution. And when I was given the opportunity to collaborate with this new Commodore business machine, well, I simply could not say no.
Well, I wanted to know actually what you have in the plans, and I guess you were kind of disappointed at the beginning that the die-hard lovers, they were kind of against you at the beginning, because they were suspecting, just like AJ, that you were just trying to cash on people. But
I really can understand what people can think, because we in the first person were also Commodore fans, loyal Commodore fans too. So we have felt on our bodies the same feelings about everything that happened to Commodore in the past. So we just said, okay, we have the opportunity to stop this delusional attitude and to make something new. And that's exactly what we did.
I mean, that's a really advantage, because you are knowing about Commodore as you had it yourself, and you are a Commodore lover yourself, and I guess that's the best way of handling a brand like Commodore, knowing what it is about, what it was about, and to create something new that is not trying to just, cash on people. So yes, but on the other hand, as AJ said, there are so many previous owner of the brand that made so much crap with it. Don't you think it's also some kind of scorched earth, and that you build up on a negative image that others
unluckily many people did weird things with this brand, and we are perfectly aware of that. But we are here to make good products with this brand, and we guess that that our phones will make this brand shine again. That's our goal, and I believe that we can do that.
That's a good goal to rehabilitate what has become of Commodore, because Commodore was it was the biggest computer manufacturer for a long time, and it's been diluted by so much
it's
stuff.
It's actually folded in a really unbelievable way. That's incredible.
Yeah,
it was really.
Well, I think that's totally great, and I hope you can get something out of it and be able to recreate the good image, the innovative image that Commodore had back in the 70s and 80s.
And we believe that we can do that. But obviously, we need also the people, the public, everyone's help, because we alone, just alone, can't do that. We want to recreate some loyalty to this brand. We would like developers to be amused by our phones. We want to give people a creative platform to do things in the way they are now accustomed to. Because people don't use computers anymore. They use their phones to make the most of their computing needs today.
And as I said, you also allow a lot of customization of the phone and don't manipulate so much on the Android OS. So I guess you can compare it a bit to the Nexus brands.
No comparisons.
I don't really know exactly how the Nexus is working today, but what I can say about the pet is that a near stock Android experience. So you can really build whatever you want upon it. You can really install whatever you want, whatever you like, and you are really free to do whatever you want.
Cool.
That's pretty interesting, because many manufacturers are like, okay, you have our phone, but you may not do this and that and this and that, and if you do that, you lose your warranty.
The only thing that we can't allow is people breaking the phones with a custom ROM they are trying to install, and then send them to our in repair asking for warranty. Well, that's not something that the warranty can cover, because we haven't given you a defective unit. We have given you a working unit. If you bring it back to us in not working state, out of order condition, well, that's not our culprit. So this is excluded from warranty, obviously. But you can do whatever you want with your phone. I want to never tell our users, no, you can't install this program. No, you can't install that or this, because we don't want that. People are free to install whatever you want. It's their phone, not ours. Once they heard about it, they have the plain right to install whatever they want, whatever they like.
It's interesting, because actually I'm working with Android phones at my work, and I experienced that a lot of companies, they don't allow you to install third-party applications and so on.
Obviously, the phone is reaching the user with the option to avoid installation of application from third party of unknown sources on, but it's not to limit their freedom. It's just to avoid that they install something dangerous, but they can freely click on that option, and they will be able to install whatever they want, providing they have the APK file to do that.
So you don't remove features?
No.
Oh, that's pretty. I guess that's a pretty fair deal.
Yeah.
Because that's really something that's rare to find, and that's actually what is the Nexus concept about, that you just have stock Android and no manipulations or limitations.
We have just installed the emulators, changed some settings because we felt they would have been better, and installed a new keyboard that's fairly better than the stock one.
Great. Cool. Let's talk a bit about the specs. I also read you expanded a bit the memory and stuff. So
yes, we have doubled the memory of that architect phone everybody's talking about. Yeah, it's double the memory. Double the storage. One time more the memory and so on. So yeah, it's a different phone.
Mm-hmm.
My wife. Sorry, I closed.
That's okay.
Power off.
Nice. Well, so from my side, I've covered all my questions I had in mind. I don't know, AJ, do you have anything left?
Nope, I think that's it. Again, what's the website and everything that people can go and find out about this and check that out and everything?
I guess it's everything okay. And people, our phones are truly Commodore products.
All right.
From a brand new Commodore made for you.
He asked the URL, the address. Can you tell us the address where you find the phone?
There are two addresses, but maybe the more simpler one is www.commodoresmart.com.
Okay.
Which you also use for Twitter and so on, I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's exactly the same.
Yep, we'll link to all of that in the podcast description so that everyone can check it out.
Anyway, our first media we are talking people to is through Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So people can come on our Facebook page whenever they want, put the like and ask us whatever they like.
Cool.
I guess you are used to tough questions from the community. Meanwhile.
Oh, yeah.
Massimo? Sarei curioso, se è possibile, sapere da parte loro perché ha suscitato tanto clamore il comodo smartphone e diversamente in tutti questi anni nessuno ha fatto la voce alta nei confronti di questo silenzio e di questa ombra che aleggiava attorno a Commodore. Perché non ne hanno mai parlato? Cioè, fondamentalmente era una nicchia, perché noi non facciamo nulla di nostalgico, noi stiamo facendo qualcosa di innovativo, riprendendo la filosofia e l'amore di questo Massimo.
Massimo
mi incuriosisce tanto.
Surprised by the fact that many people made a lot of clamor for our smartphone, but they almost didn't spend a word for the silence that was in between when nobody actually did anything with this brand.
Of course.
So he asked, what do you think about it? What was your initial reaction when you heard about our phone?
Era risaputo, indagando un po' cosa stessero un po' combinando, qualcuno stesse un po', vabbè, non voglio entrare nel merito, però sono dati pubblici, dati ufficiali. A me sinceramente
you mean my reaction and AJ's first reaction? Well, for me personally, I thought, okay, let's see. Let's just first talk to those guys and let's see what their plans for the Commodore brand are. Because for my experience, and we spoke to a lot of people in the past, general media is doing a lot of claims. You know, somebody's picking up that phone that looks similar to the specs you promoted, and then they are saying instantly, okay, that's a copy. And they're just a crash cow. And I thought, okay, first let's talk to them.
Please don't forget that also Jack Tramiel started with importing typewriters, mechanical typewriters from the Eastern Europe. So that's something we are making again. Obviously, we needed to start with so much Chinese phone, but furtherly, we wanted to be more and more original. in the future,
Mm-hmm.
and be the old Commodore again. So that's our plan.
So that is why I was messaging you guys like crazy for weeks, because I really wanted to talk to you. I wanted to get the truth out there, you know.
We are completely mad.
So this is why I kept writing Massimo and so on and said like, when can you talk? When can you talk? Because I really wanted to get the truth out and to find your perspective and your goals with the brand. And that is at least that was my first reaction.
Right.
And I guess now it's up to AJ to answer.
Well, yeah. Again, my reaction, like I said before, was initially it was oh, here we go again, you know. But again, you know, it's you know, I said, well, let's give these guys the benefit of the doubt, and I want to at least find out what it is that they're doing and find out about it, and it's up to them to convince me, is what I kept telling Joerg, and I'm more or less convinced. I mean, I'm not, you know, it seems like a good product, and it's something that I would use. So,
and it's definitely something we will keep an eye on once it's out in 3 weeks, and maybe come back to it and have a look at it at the reviews if it's really keeping what you promised. That's of course the next step.
Right.
Yes,
that's the next interesting thing.
We are keeping our promises. Absolutely.
We will see that in 3 weeks. So, yeah. Well, I'm just really interested because the last really nice Commodore product that there was the DTV, and that is from 2004 from Terry Ellsworth. You probably know what I'm talking about, you know?
Yeah.
And that was the last worthy Commodore product for me.
Right. Well, I hope that they do.
I had one on my desk behind me, but sorry, I can't find it now. But yeah, I'm not happy to do it.
Well, I hope that they do. I hope you guys do well, and that you're successful with this, because it would be nice to have. It would be nice to have Commodore back, even if it's not something that is necessarily retro or whatever, but to have it. And to have it be something that exists,
Thank you.
Even if it's not, you know, I mean, because that at the very least, by existing and being successful, you can stop people from making crap with the Commodore name on it. You know,
that's not really our business. So
exactly.
We want to make good products.
But the more successful you are, the less that the other people can do that, which would be great.
Ok.
Questa non l'avevo capita, se puoi ripetermi. Sì, infatti io non capisco a volte l'accanimento degli amighisti, di una branca, perché noi abbiamo fino ad oggi mantenuto le nostre promesse.
Massimo can't understand why some people from the old Commodore ages, so two Amigans and people on forums and so on, had to be so skeptical about our project. We are just trying to make this brand great again. We are not here to make just money on the brand and just forgot about everything else. That's something that doesn't interest us.
Poi vorrei aggiungere solo una cosa: noi come ci definiamo anche come pet, come cucciolo, come crescita, la possibilità di diventare un grandissimo gruppo sociale, come lo sono altri grandi marchi blasonati, che non cito, come la mela, ecco, per intenderci. Okay. Diversamente, invece di farsi una guerra inutile, sparando cose fantomatiche, perché non può esistere tutta questa grandissima e bella unione che può far crescere Joerg,
This is really important. We don't understand why some people must hate. We are here to recreate the old Commodore community. We would like to benefit that to bring them back at home. We are not here to make wars, and we don't understand why other companies are so frightened by us, are so upset. We really want to collaborate with everyone to make this community be big and great again as it was in the past.
Well, you're not the only one with such a problem. I mean, we spoke. I don't know if you were a gamer. If you probably heard about 3D RAMs and the Duke Nukem disaster that took like 14 years to come out. Duke Nukem Forever.
Yeah.
And the same problem happened when Interceptor, the Danish guys, took over the 3D RAMs front. They had similar problems, like, oh no, they are just cashing on the old games now.
Well, I think a lot of it is also
But
that
at the end, someone could play Duke Nukem Forever. Just
yeah, I think a lot of it is that people get so protective and of something that they hold dear, and then they see somebody come along with something new, and again, when I saw my first thought was like, oh, here we go again. Someone's going to try to, do something with this that maybe is a little bit unsavory, but you get protective of a brand, and then you see something new happen, and it's it's until you really see what the product is, and until you really understand what it is, and you guys are the vibe I get really is that you're trying to bring it.
And I can understand, because people can be a lover of a brand and can be very fond of a brand.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start to look at brands in a so lovely manner, then it stops to be a passion. It begins to be a religion, something that is too excessive. A brand is a brand. And the best way to honor a brand is making products and making successful products, good products people can buy.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way to honor a brand, not just keep it in the fridge and just forget that, oh, well, that company is trying to use that. Let's sue that. No, that's really not our business.
Right.
I guess you really summarized it well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I guess I have to go now, and so I really want to take you from the whole Commodore stuff, and I hope that this talking helped to make it clear what our projects are and our goals we have in mind. So, see you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you both for sitting.
Bye, Massimo. Bye, Paolo.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, Joerg.
So, that was Commodore Business Machines. That was,
very interesting conversation.
yeah. That was very interesting. So, we started, I started this fairly reasonably skeptical, like everybody else did. And what I get out of this is I'm less skeptical of the intentions behind it. Okay? This is something that they're not trying to, because the headlines, when this came out, the headlines were things like, Commodore returns as a nostalgia-powered Android phone, and this and that. And talking to them, it's really less about nostalgia than it is about building a new Commodore brand focused on the smartphone market, which I can get behind more than I can get behind when you make a Core 2, an Intel powered Core 2 Duo machine, or no, actually I think it was an Atom. It was an Intel Atom processor machine that looks like a Commodore 64, but has nothing to do at all with the Commodore 64. It just looks like one. That's trying to cash in on nostalgia. When you make the Webbit, the Commodore 64 Webbit, where it's a piece of garbage in plastic with an emulator on it, that's trying to cash in on a name. with something that doesn't have anything to do with the name. These guys aren't trying to be... They're not trying to fool you into thinking that this has something to do with the Commodore 64 or the PET or the VIC or whatever. This is a product that they're making that is new, and regardless of whether it's rebranded as from something else or it's a slightly modified Chinese phone or whatever it is, they're saying we want to honor the Commodore brand by making a new Commodore brand.
On the other hand, they are trying to make it right. Despite it has emulator and it's not the main focus, Paolo said they made sure that they are working together with the authors of both emulators, Amiga and for the C64, to get it right and modified for the phone, which was not the case for the Vapid, because it didn't even run the games in the full speed.
Right. Well, you also have to look at this as a you're damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of an issue. Because if they had just made a new Android phone that said Commodore and had no emulator on it at all, people would be livid and angry about that. However, when they put the emulator on it, then we're like, well, then now they're just trying to cash in on the name. So if you're going to do it,
you can't
exactly. There is no way to win this in everyone's mind. So if you can, the best way to do it is to do it right, which is how they're trying to do it, and whether or not it works or not, it's a phone. It's an Android phone. There's some minor differences from other Android phones. It has potential, and like I said, if Commodore had not gone out of business, if they still existed, and if they made a smartphone, it would be running on this, because there's no, if you try, because we have a monoculture, we have iOS, we have Android. There's other little things, but that would be like Palm Pilot. It doesn't exist anymore. Nobody uses it because or BlackBerry, which is fading away because people don't want that. They want to be able to go, like they said, go to the store, get a phone, and use it and install the apps and everything, and they don't want to worry about that platform issue anymore.
The good thing is, Paolo said he is a Amiga programmer himself,
right?
So he knows what he is talking about. So that means,
right,
as I said, they had to include the emulators to not disappoint the fans of the Commodore. But on the other hand, they are making sure they get it right.
Right, and it's not so much that I see that it's a cash grab on the name. That it's a hey, let's make some money by sticking a chicken head on a phone. It's more like, the way they describe it, it's we can honor the Jack Trammell's Commodore by carrying on the name with our product.
Which is kind of what happened with the 3D RAMs guys.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. It's like, let's imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, is what they say, and I guess that's they want to honor and complement what was by making something new. And I can get behind making something new more than I can get behind trying to cash in on something old.
On the other hand, Tulip did it pretty well with the DTV.
Right. Well, that was a dedicated device. That was so that you could relive the nostalgia. You're not going to relive the nostalgia with a phone.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm missing in a way.
And making new C64s. If you made a company that developed the new Commodore 64 and it was exactly like the old Commodore 64, no one's gonna buy it because, well, maybe 100 people might buy it that are into it, but the vast majority, you're not gonna run a business model based on recreating what used to be, because it's over with, it's done.
But it was quite successful with the DTV for some reason.
Well, because the DTV was a simple device that you didn't need to understand. Because remember, Commodore wasn't... The C64 wasn't something that any old schlub could plug in and go. You had to learn commands to play things, right? And no one wants to do that now. So if you put out a Commodore 64 right now, right? That worked like the Commodore 64 did back then, with the load and all the commands and all that stuff. It would not sell. The DTV was a joystick you plugged into your computer, your TV rather, and you played a video game. And that's what people want. They want to relive their youth. And the DTV, if they started making it again right now, would sell, and that would be the product that you don't need any other product than that for nostalgia's sake. You want to play a game or whatever, that's the DTV is perfect for that.
And if you have geeks like us, then it's like, here are the connectors,
right.
Wire, solder some wire on it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
right. Yeah,
there you
geeks will figure out how to work it and stuff, and that's awesome. That's great. But
good enough.
Right, but that in itself is not enough to rebuild a brand. And if they want to honor and rebuild the brand with a phone and turn it and have a smartphone company that is named Commodore, that's okay. I'm not. That doesn't upset me.
So, if you are about to get a secondary phone because you like Android so much or you want to give it a try, would it be the Commodore PET?
If it was available and it was reasonably priced, I would not hesitate to get one. It looked like a good device, and if the specs are reasonable, it was comparable to the S5, they said. And if given that option, if I went into a store tomorrow to upgrade my phone, and I wanted an Android device, and it was sitting there, it would be on my list. It would be on my short list of options. And I might even pay a little bit extra to get it just because Commodore. Just because it's got that, and because talking to these guys, you get that they're genuine-ish in their reasonings for it.
Plus, you have the advantage, and that is what the other phones don't have.
Right.
You can freely manipulate it as you want, despite having a custom ROM.
Right.
Except having a custom ROM.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's pretty decent. So basically, what you get is
you get an Android phone. You get a decent Android phone with a Commodore logo on it.
Yeah, a Nexus styled phone with the Commodore brand on it.
Right, which is fine. That's I wish them luck as a phone company. That's great. If you want to call it Commodore and make cell phones, I don't have a problem with that. Even if the specs suck on it, because there's a market for that. There's a market for low end smartphones, and so by all means, I have no problem at all with that. What I have a problem with is trying to make a knockoff product, stick a logo on it, and cash in, and that doesn't seem like what they're trying to do. Yeah,
that's pretty well said.
Because it's not a look, we're Commodore. This is it's really, really difficult to articulate because you know what I mean? Because they're not trying to be Commodore from 1984, and they're not necessarily trying to cash in on the Commodore of 1984, but they're trying to make a Commodore of 2015, and to do that, you need to acknowledge the Commodore of 1984, because people like me will jump down your throat and be like, well, what is this crap that you're doing? Or that will see it and go, ugh, not again. Because people do that, and they try to make these products which are knockoffs, which are cheap knockoffs, like that thing that looked like a C64, and it was budget laptop components in a box that looked like the C64.
So let's see what's coming.
So I wish them all the best. I feel better about it having talked to them.
As I said, give them a chance.
Right, exactly. Give them a chance. Let's see what happens. So I am not as unhappy about this as I was at the beginning or when I first heard about it. And when I said, they're going to need to convince me. They convinced me, not 100%. I'm not, totally on this will be great. Well, we'll see how it goes. And
3 weeks,
right,
and we'll see what the media is saying.
Right, and the media may say nothing because it's. I will say one thing: it's good marketing because you mentioned Commodore, and suddenly the press is on it because it's Commodore.
Well, the same happened with 3D realms.
Right.
Wow, they are back.
Yeah, right, and it gets you publicity. Now, whether that publicity will lead to a successful business model is yet to be seen. And for them, I hope it does. And I'm looking here that there's, as of August 17th or August 12th rather, that they've received an opposition request about the trademark for Commodore. Which was registered in 2015 of May of 2015. So, it's yet to be seen how this will work. And, I wish them the best. I hope it does work out. And I would, again, it looks like a good phone, and it doesn't look terrible, and it looks like something that I would potentially purchase if it was in front of me and I could.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the very least, having Commodore exist as a smartphone company could potentially stop other people from using the trademark to make shit.
But I still hope they would find, I don't know, an urge to make a new Amiga model, or maybe
No, I don't think they should. I don't think they should. Because
or maybe making something like a DTV.
No, I don't think that they should, because here's the thing.
Okay.
Here's the thing. We don't need Commodore as the computer company. The Commodore of 1984.
1982, actually.
Yeah, 1982 is gone. It went bankrupt in 1994. If it hadn't gone bankrupt, that would be great. And we would have, and if they hadn't gone bankrupt and maybe had given us an alternative to the current Mac PC monoculture that we have, that would be nice. But it didn't.
But they wouldn't have gone for C64.
Right. But they didn't survive. It's over. It's done with. It's in the past, and that's okay, because what people like about it and what they hang on to is the past, is the machines they made back in the 80s and early 90s and stuff. That's what people like. If you come out and start making new things like that, number one, it's not going to work because the machines are obsolete. So you would be marketing to a very small group of enthusiasts, and that is not going to be. It's not a business model. So that Commodore is gone, and that's okay because we can look back to it. We have emulators we can play the stuff on. We don't need another Commodore 64 or a new Commodore 64 or a new Amiga because it's a dead end. It's Neanderthal. They died out.
Yeah,
they died out, and we can look back fondly, and we can learn things, and we can enjoy what was there. But to bring it back now would not benefit or make it any better.
Like he said, if you want a new Commodore Amiga, get a Amiga 1. If you want a new Commodore, individual computers who made the Commodore 1 actually made a new Commodore C64, like 5 units or something that you could have auctioned at.
Right. So, what would be nice is if they could... Is if you would get closer to your microphone so I don't get background noise.
Sorry.
But also, what would be nice is if some limited edition chips became remanufactured, because that's usually what goes bad on the machines, and there's
SID is crazily expensive.
Exactly. You can't and pretty much every SID chip is pulled out of a dead machine. So if they were to make a limited batch of like 2,000 new SID chips, that would be nice.
The Chinese did some fake ones.
Right.
They even worked, but they didn't sound right.
Right. Well,
that's not what we want.
But SID chips from generation to generation didn't sound right anyway. So. Yeah,
but that's because they were partly analog.
Yeah. Right. So I mean, if if some company wanted to do that, that would be nice. But
You
I
know,
don't think
you
that
could
there's a
actually
market
make a
for.
Kickstarter
Yeah, you could.
for that, because all those engineers, they are still around
Right.
from Commodore,
Uh-huh.
you know?
Right.
And, you know, I talked to those people, and they are still active.
Uh-huh.
That's the interesting thing. Chuck Patel, the former lead designer, together with Yash Shirakura, who was also a hardware designer at Commodore Japan, they are working on the successor of the SSD, a new generation of storage media
Right.
that's actually being faster than SSD and offering backup solution included. So you don't need to take care about your backup. So it's like an unbreakable device or something.
Yeah.
And Bill Hurt is doing his hardware.com thing,
Uh-huh.
and even what was his name again? Petro Tichenko, who was global marketing manager and logistics guy in Commodore. He is still working with doing transportations for auctions and stuff, and he released his history book about Commodore. So all those people, they are still active. So if somebody was making a Kickstarter and saying, hey, we want to recreate the C64 and the SID chips or whatever, or the chips alone, I guess they would be pretty well ready to say, okay, we will help, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
But nobody does it because it takes such a lot of time and investment and money, and not so easy.
Yeah.
But theoretically, it would be possible. You know?
Yeah. So, well, once again, we can, if you want to check out these products, they'll be released fairly soon. You can go to their website. It's www.commodore-pet.com, and that you can order. You can, pre-order and all that stuff for that there. They said their primary their primary interaction with people is through their Facebook page, which
would be facebook.com/cbm.commodore.
That's right. Or you can, just search Commodore Business Machines and you'll see them. So that's something that you should definitely check out.
And they have a YouTube channel too.
Yes. It's one of those channel.
Yeah, they didn't opt for
we will
customized URL.
Yeah, we'll link to the YouTube channel in the podcast description.
But you can search for it on YouTube at Commodore Business Machines, and you will get it as one of the results.
Yeah, you'll see it. And their most recent video of about a week ago is a demonstration of the keyboard that they were just talking about with us. For us, you know us. You can check us out at sceneworld.org. That's where you can find more video interviews and the new issue that was just released, number 25, both parts of it. I have a website. It's justwestofhell.com. Joerg's got one over there at nafcom.eu. And until next time, he's Joerg. I'm not. We'll see you then.